In a village, there once lived two men who had the same name. They were both named Claus. One of them had 4 horses, but the other had only 1. So to tell them apart, people called the owner of the 4 horses Big Claus, and the one who had only 1 Little Claus. Now we shall hear what happened to them, for this is a true story. Throughout the whole week, Little Claus had to plow for Big Claus and lend him his 1 horse. And once a week, on a Sunday, Big Claus lent him all 4 of his horses. Then, how Little Claus would crack his whip over all 5 horses. They were as good as his own on that one day. The sun shone brightly and the church bells were ringing merrily as the people passed by, dressed in their best clothes with their prayer books under their arms. They were going to hear the preacher speak. They looked at Little Claus plowing with his 5 horses, and he was so proud that he cracked his whip and said, "Giddy up, all my horses!" "You must not say that," said Big Claus, "for only one of them belongs to you." But Little Claus soon forgot what he was supposed to say, and when anyone passed, he would call out, "Giddy up, all my horses!" "Now I must ask you not to say that again," said Big Claus, "for if you do, I shall hit your horse on the head so that he will drop dead on the spot, and that will be the end of him." "I promise you I will not say it anymore," said the other. But as soon as people came by, nodding to him and wishing him good day, he became so pleased and thought how grand it looked to have 5 horses plowing in his field that he cried out again, "Giddy up, all my horses!" "I'll giddy up your horses for you," said Big Claus, and grabbing a hammer, he struck Little Claus's 1 horse on the head, and it fell dead instantly. "Oh, now I have no horse at all," said Little Claus, weeping. But after a while, he took off the dead horse's skin and hung the hide to dry in the wind. Then he put the dry skin into a bag, placed it over his shoulder, and went out to the next town to sell the horse's skin. He had a very long way to go and had to pass through a dark, gloomy forest. Suddenly a storm arose, and he lost his way. Before he discovered the right path, evening came on, and it was still a long way to the town and too far to return home before night. Near the road stood a large farmhouse. The shutters outside the windows were closed, but lights shone through the cracks at the top. "I might get permission to stay here for the night," thought Little Claus, so he went up to the door and knocked. The farmer's wife opened the door, but when she heard what he wanted, she told him to go away, as her husband would not allow her to let strangers in. "Then I'll have to sleep out here," said Little Claus to himself as the farmer's wife shut the door in his face. Near the farmhouse stood a large haystack, and between it and the house was a small shed with a thatched roof. "I can sleep up there," said Little Claus as he saw the roof. "It will make an excellent bed, though I hope the stork won't fly down and bite my legs." For on it stood a living stork whose nest was in the roof. So Little Claus climbed to the roof of the shed, and while he turned around to get comfortable, he discovered that the wooden shutters, which were closed, did not reach the tops of the windows of the farmhouse. He could see right into a room where a large table was laid out with wine, roast meat, and a splendid fish. The farmer's wife and the sexton, a church official, were sitting at the table together. She filled his glass and served him plenty of fish, which appeared to be his favorite dish. "If I could only get some too," thought Little Claus. And then, as he stretched his neck toward the window, he spied a large, beautiful pie. Indeed, they had a glorious feast before them. At this moment, he heard someone riding down the road toward the farmhouse. It was the farmer returning home. He was a good man, but he had a very strange prejudice. He could not bear the sight of a sexton. If one appeared before him, he would fly into a terrible rage. Because of this dislike, the sexton had gone to visit the farmer's wife during her husband's absence from home, and the good woman had placed the best food she had in the house before him. When she heard the farmer coming, she was frightened and begged the sexton to hide in a large empty chest that stood in the room. He did so, for he knew her husband could not endure the sight of a sexton. The woman then quickly put away the wine and hid all the rest of the nice things in the oven, for if her husband had seen them, he would have asked what they were brought out for. "Oh dear," sighed Little Claus from the top of the shed as he saw all the good things disappear. "Is anyone up there?" asked the farmer, looking up and spotting Little Claus. "Why are you lying up there? Come down and come into the house with me." So Little Claus came down and told the farmer how he had lost his way and begged for a night's lodging. "All right," said the farmer, "but we must have something to eat first." The woman received them both very kindly, laid the cloth on a large table, and placed a dish of porridge before them. The farmer was very hungry and ate his porridge with a good appetite, But little Claus could not help thinking of the nice roast meat, fish, and pies which he knew were in the oven. Under the table, at his feet, lay the sack containing the horse's skin, which he intended to sell at the next town. Now, little Claus did not enjoy the porridge at all, so he stepped on the sack under the table with his foot, and the dry skin squeaked quite loudly. Hush, said little Claus to his sack, but at the same time, he stepped on it again until it squeaked louder than before. Hello, what have you got in your sack? Asked the farmer. Oh, it is a wizard, said little Claus, and he says we don't need to eat porridge, for he has conjured the oven full of roast meat, fish, and pie. Wonderful! Cried the farmer, jumping up and opening the oven door, and there lay all the nice things hidden by the farmer's wife, but which he supposed had been conjured there by the wizard under the table. The woman dared not say anything, so she placed the food before them, and they both ate the fish, the meat, and the pastry. Then little Claus stepped on his sack again, and it squeaked as before. What does he say now? Asked the farmer. He says, replied little Claus, that there are 3 bottles of wine for us standing in the corner by the oven. So the woman was forced to bring out the wine also, which she had hidden, and the farmer drank until he became quite merry. He would have liked to have such a wizard as the one little Claus carried in his sack. Could he conjure up the devil? Asked the farmer. I would like to see him now, while I am so merry. Oh yes, replied little Claus. My wizard can do anything I ask him, can you not? He asked, stepping on the sack at the same time until it squeaked. Do you hear? He answers yes, but he fears that we won't like to look at him. Oh, I am not afraid. What will he be like? Well, he looks very much like a sexton. Ha, said the farmer. Then he must be ugly. You know I cannot endure the sight of a sexton. However, that doesn't matter. I shall know who it is, so I won't mind. Now then, I have built up my courage, but don't let him come too near me. Stop. I must ask the wizard, said little Claus, so he stepped on the bag and bent his ear down to listen. What does he say? He says that you must go and open that large chest standing in the corner, and you will see the devil crouching down inside, but you must hold the lid firmly so that he doesn't slip out. Will you come and help me hold it? Said the farmer, going toward the chest in which his wife had hidden the sexton, who now lay inside very frightened. The farmer opened the lid just a little way and peeped in. Oh, he cried, springing backward. I saw him, and he is exactly like our sexton. How dreadful! So after that he had to drink again, and they sat and drank until late into the night. You must sell your wizard to me, said the farmer. Ask as much as you like. I will pay it. Indeed, I would give you a whole bushel of gold right now. No, indeed, I cannot, said little Claus. Just think how much profit I could make from this wizard. But I would really like to have him, said the farmer, continuing to beg. Well, said little Claus at last, since you have been so good as to give me a night's lodging, I won't refuse you. You shall have the wizard for a bushel of money, but I want the measure filled to the brim. So you shall, said the farmer, but you must take away the chest as well. I won't have it in the house another hour. There is no knowing if he might not still be in there. So, little Claus gave the farmer the sack containing the dried horse's skin, and received in exchange a bushel of money, full measure. The farmer also gave him a wheelbarrow to carry away the chest and the gold. Farewell, said little Claus as he went off with his money and the great chest in which the sexton still lay concealed. On one side of the forest was a broad, deep river. The water flowed so rapidly that very few were able to swim against the stream. A new bridge had lately been built across it, and in the middle of this bridge, little Claus stopped and said loud enough to be heard by the sexton, Now what shall I do with this stupid chest? It is as heavy as if it were full of stones. I'll be tired if I roll it any further, so I might as well throw it in the river. If it floats after me to my house, well and good, and if not, it doesn't matter much. So he seized the chest with his hand and lifted it up a little as if he were going to throw it into the water. No, leave it alone, cried the sexton from inside the chest. Let me out first. Oh, exclaimed little Claus, pretending to be frightened. He is still in there, is he? I must throw him into the river so that he may be drowned. Oh no, cried the sexton. I will give you a whole bushel full of money if you will let me go. Why, that is another matter, said little Claus, opening the chest. The sexton crept out, pushed the empty chest into the water, and went to his house. Then he measured out a whole bushel full of gold for little Claus. Since he had already received one from the farmer, he now had a wheelbarrow full. "I have been well paid for my horse," he said to himself when he reached home, entered his own room, and emptied all his money into a heap on the floor. "How annoyed Big Claus will be when he finds out how rich I have become, all because of my one horse, but I won't tell him exactly how it all happened." Then he sent a boy to Big Claus to borrow a bushel measure. What can he want that for? Thought Big Claus, so he smeared the bottom of the measure with tar so that whatever was put into it might stick there and remain. And so it happened, for when the measure returned, 3 new silver coins were sticking to it. "What does this mean?" said Big Claus, so he ran off directly to Little Claus and asked, "Where did you get so much money?" "Oh, for my horse's skin. I sold it yesterday." "It was certainly well paid for then," said Big Claus, and he ran home to his house, grabbed a hatchet, knocked all 4 of his horses on the head, skinned them, and took them to the town to sell. Skins, who'll buy skins?" he cried as he went through the streets. All the shoemakers and tanners came running and asked how much he wanted for them. "A bushel of money for each," replied Big Claus. "Are you crazy?" They all cried, "Do you think we have money to spend by the bushel?" Skins, he cried again. "Who'll buy skins?" But to all who asked the price, his answer was, "A bushel of money." "He is making fools of us," they all said. Then the shoemakers took their straps and the tanners their leather aprons and began to beat Big Claus. Skins! They cried, mocking him, "Yes, we'll mark your skin for you until it is black and blue." "Out of town with him," they said. And Big Claus was forced to run as fast as he could. He had never before been so thoroughly beaten. "Ah," said he as he came to his house, "Little Claus shall pay for this. I will beat him to death." Meanwhile, the old grandmother of Little Claus died. She had been mean, unkind, and really spiteful to him, but he was very sorry and took the dead woman and laid her in his warm bed to see if he could bring her to life again. He decided that she should lie there the whole night while he sat in a chair in a corner of the room, as he had often done before. During the night, as he sat there, the door opened and in came Big Claus with a hatchet. He knew well where Little Claus's bed stood, so he went right up to it and struck the old grandmother on the head, thinking it must be Little Claus. "There!" cried he. "Now you cannot make a fool of me again." And then he went home. "That is a very wicked man," thought Little Claus. "He meant to kill me. It is a good thing for my old grandmother that she was already dead, or he would have taken her life." Then he dressed his old grandmother in her best clothes, borrowed a horse from his neighbor, and harnessed it to a cart. Then he placed the old woman on the back seat so that she might not fall out as he drove, and rode away through the woods. By sunrise, they reached a large inn, where Little Claus stopped and went to get something to eat. The landlord was a rich man, and a good man too, but as hot-tempered as if he had been made of pepper and tobacco. "Good morning," said he to Little Claus. "You have come early today." "Yeah," said Little Claus. "I'm going to the town with my old grandmother. She's sitting in the back of the wagon, but I cannot bring her into the room." "Will you take her a glass of mead? But you must speak very loudly, for she cannot hear well." "Yes, certainly I will," replied the landlord, and pouring out a glass of mead, he carried it out to the dead grandmother, who sat upright in the cart. "Here is a glass of mead from your grandson," said the landlord. The dead woman did not answer a word, but sat quite still. "Do you not hear?" cried the landlord as loud as he could. "Here is a glass of mead from your grandson." Again and again he shouted it out, but as she did not stir, he flew into a rage and threw the glass of mead in her face. It struck her on the nose, and she fell backward out of the cart, for she was only seated there, not tied in. "Hello!" cried Little Claus, rushing out of the door and grabbing the landlord by the throat. "You have killed my grandmother. See, here is a big hole in her forehead." "Oh, how unfortunate," said the landlord, wringing his hands. "This all comes from my fiery temper. Dear Little Claus, I will give you a bushel of money. I will bury your grandmother as if she were my own. Only keep silent, or else they will cut off my head, and that would be unpleasant." So it happened that Little Claus received another bushel of money, and the landlord buried his old grandmother as if she had been his own. When Little Claus reached home again, he immediately sent a boy to Big Claus, asking him to lend him a bushel measure. "How is this?" thought Big Claus. "Did I not kill him? I must go and see for myself." So he went to Little Claus and took the bushel measure with him. "How did you get all this money?" asked Big Claus, staring with wide open eyes at his neighbor's treasures. "You killed my grandmother instead of me," said Little Claus, "so I have sold her for a bushel of money." "That is a good price at any rate," said Big Claus. So he went home, took a hatchet, and killed his old grandmother with one blow. Then he placed her on a cart, drove into the town to the pharmacy, and asked the pharmacist if he would buy a dead body. "Whose is it, and where did you get it?" asked the pharmacist. "It is my grandmother," he replied. "I killed her with a blow so that I might get a bushel of money for her." "Heaven preserve us!" cried the pharmacist. "You are out of your mind. Don't say such things, or you will lose your head." And then he talked to him seriously about the wicked deed he had done and told him that such a wicked man would surely be punished. Big Claus got so frightened that he rushed out of the shop, jumped into the cart, whipped up his horses, and drove home quickly. The pharmacist and all the people thought he was mad and let him drive wherever he liked. "You shall pay for this," said Big Claus as soon as he got onto the highway. "You definitely shall, Little Claus." So, as soon as he reached home, he took the largest sack he could find and went over to Little Claus. "You have played me another trick," said he. "First, I killed all my horses and then my old grandmother, and it is all your fault. But you shall not make a fool of me anymore." So he grabbed Little Claus around the body and pushed him into the sack, which he took on his shoulders, saying, "Now I'm going to drown you in the river." He had a long way to go before he reached the river, and Little Claus was not a very light weight to carry. The road led by the church, and as they passed, he could hear the organ playing and the people singing beautifully. Big Claus put down the sack close to the church door and thought he might as well go in and hear a hymn before he went any further. Little Claus could not possibly get out of the sack, and all the people were in church, so in he went. "Oh dear, sighed Little Claus in the sack as he turned and twisted about, but he found he could not loosen the string with which it was tied. Presently, an old cattle driver with snowy hair passed by, carrying a large staff in his hand, with which he drove a large herd of cows and oxen before him. They stumbled against the sack in which Little Claus lay and turned it over. "Oh dear," sighed Little Claus, "I am very young, yet I am soon going to heaven." "And I, poor fellow," said the cattle driver, "I who am so old already, cannot get there." "Open the sack," cried Little Claus. "Creep into it instead of me, and you will soon be there." "With all my heart," replied the driver, opening the sack, from which Little Claus sprang as quickly as possible. "Will you take care of my cattle?" said the old man as he crept into the bag. "Yes," said Little Claus, and he tied up the sack and then walked off with all the cows and oxen. When Big Claus came out of church, he took up the sack and placed it on his shoulders. It appeared to have become lighter, for the old cattle driver was not half as heavy as Little Claus. "How light he seems now," said he. "Ah, it is because I have been to church." So he walked onto the river, which was deep and broad, and threw the sack containing the old cattle driver into the water, believing it to be Little Claus. "There you may lie," he exclaimed. "You will play me no more tricks now." Then he turned to go home, but when he came to a place where two roads crossed, there was Little Claus driving the cattle. "How is this?" said Big Claus. "Did I not drown you just now?" "Yes," said Little Claus. "You threw me into the river about half an hour ago." "But wherever did you get all these fine beasts?" asked Big Claus. "These beasts are sea cattle," replied Little Claus. "I'll tell you the whole story, and thank you for drowning me. I am above you now, and I am really very rich. I was frightened, to be sure, while I lay tied up in the sack, and the wind whistled in my ears when you threw me into the river from the bridge, and I sank to the bottom immediately. But I did not hurt myself, for I fell upon beautifully soft grass which grows down there, and in a moment the sack opened, and the sweetest little maiden came toward me. She had snow-white robes and a wreath of green leaves on her wet hair. She took me by the hand and said, 'So you have come, Little Claus, and here are some cattle for you to begin with. About a mile further on the road there is another herd for you.' Then I saw that the river formed a great highway for the people who live in the sea. They were walking and driving here and there from the sea to the land at the spot where the river ends. The bed of the river was covered with the loveliest flowers and sweet, fresh grass. The fish swam past me as rapidly as the birds do here in the air. How handsome all the people were, and what fine cattle were grazing on the hills and in the valleys." "But why did you come up again?" said Big Claus, "if it was all so beautiful down there?" "I would not have done so." "Well," said Little Claus, "it was a smart move on my part. You heard me say just now that I was told by the sea maiden to go a mile further on the road, and I should find a whole herd of cattle. By the road, she meant the river, for she could not travel any other way, but I knew the winding of the river and how it bends sometimes to the right and sometimes to the left, and it seemed a long way, so I chose a shorter one. And by coming up to the land and then driving across the fields back again to the river, I shall save half a mile and get all my cattle more quickly." "What a lucky fellow you are!" exclaimed Big Claus. "Do you think I would get any sea cattle if I went down to the bottom of the river?" "Yes, I think so," said Little Claus, "but I cannot carry you there in a sack. You are too heavy. However, if you will go there first and then creep into a sack, I will throw you in with the greatest pleasure." "Thank you," said Big Claus, "but remember, if I do not get any sea cattle down there, I shall come up again and give you a good beating." "No, now, don't be too fierce about it," said Little Claus as they walked on toward the river. When they approached it, the cattle, who were very thirsty, saw the stream and ran down to drink. "See what a hurry they are in," said Little Claus. "They are longing to get down again." "Come, help me, hurry up," said Big Claus, "or you'll get beaten." So he crept into a large sack that had been lying across the back of one of the oxen. "Put in a stone," said Big Claus, "or I might not sink." "Oh, there's not much fear of that," he replied. Still he put a large stone into the bag, tied it tightly, and gave it a push. Splash! In went Big Claus, and he immediately sank to the bottom of the river. "I'm afraid he will not find any cattle," said Little Claus, and then he drove his own beasts homeward.